Welcome to this tutorial on the Event Hammer Score Management feature. Like most of the features, we are going to work with an event context. So we have to select an event from the drop-down box in the home screen. But for this demonstration, I'm going to show you how to run the scores in my sandbox environment. So I'm going to enable the sandbox, which is indicated by this light coral coloring in the background. I'm going to pick an event that I've pre-staged for this demonstration. As you'll see, we only have 2 matches and 5 competitors in this demonstration. If we go over to our Scores tab, we have a simple grid view, which is showing some of the scores of each of our competitors. So much of this information is pre-populated, but we are going to add some scores, we're going to remove some, and manipulate some of the existings. Before we get into actually modification of our data and committing that to our backend database, I'd like to show you a couple of the user interface features. So what I'd like to show you now is the different sorting. We have all of these scores in here, but most likely you want to view this information based on each match. Simply clicking on the headers of any of these columns will resort your grid view. In this particular case, we're sorting by the subdivision so that you can see that we have Isabel, last name 1, and Test, last name Hammer, with their various scores and the 2 different ranks. We could easily filter by different match types or sort by the competitors' names to be able to find things. For now, let's leave it sorted by the divisions. So the columns that we have available to us are the columns that you would see on the same scorecards that are available to you on the home page for use during the tournament. We have our division and subdivision, indication of our match type, our competitors, scores 1 through 5 if it was a kata or weapons kata type event, totals calculated for those as well, your rankings 1, 2, 3, or any other number, and disqualified. Right-clicking anywhere will give it this context menu allowing you to add or delete rows. So here we've created a new row, and you'll see that our division and subdivision gives you only the options available to you from the matches that actually exist. So we'll say we pick number 1. The match type gets pre-populated based on the match that you selected. And the competitors list are only the competitors that fought in that match. So you'll see here we can pick Hammer Test 3 or Isabel. We already have Hammer Test 3 in Isabel, however. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this row. The scores are simple data entry, simple scores. The total is calculated after modifying any of them. So for example, if I were to change this score to 7 and click off of the row, you'll see 2 things happen. One is the score changed. The other one is that the row is highlighted in a teal. That is indicating that your row has been modified. This is useful because nothing is changed and committed until you click Submit Scores at the bottom down here. You'll also see that we have our rankings, first place and second place. These do not automatically change. So if I were to, for example, lower some of these scores, which would bring Hammer Test down below Isabel, the ranking does not automatically change. You'd have to manually switch these yourself. Once you have the edits all complete, you can go ahead and submit your scores. Scores saved successfully. If at any point in time you have edits that you no longer wish to have anymore, you can click Refresh List Data. And it asks you whether or not you would like to save your changes with yes, and then refresh the list, discard the changes with no, or cancel to abort the refresh. In this case, we're going to hit no so that we can revert back to the values that we had unchanged. Refreshing the list data, however, calls back out to the database and returns new values. This could potentially be a little bit slower than you would like if you didn't actually want to refresh from the source. Undo changes works just as well, but potentially faster. The main difference between this is if you're in a situation where more than one person is working on your particular event. If it's just you, undoing changes reverts back as if you didn't change anything. The list data refresh, because it comes from the backend database, would pull in any additional changes that some other person with their client tool modified within your event. So we've already covered how to add new rows and how you would select them and modify them to have additional scores. But next I want to show you how to delete rows. So we're going to make a new record here. And we'll have it be hammer test 3. Now if we sort these, what you'll see here is we actually have a duplicate. We have two different entries for hammer test 3. So we're going to first exercise the validation features of the system and then utilize our deletes right after. So first and foremost, if I hit submit scores, we have a unhandled validation error, scores failed to save. Now that's because we have these empty rows up here which don't really make much sense and aren't very useful to us. So the validator just knows these are nonsense rows and can't save. So if we click on any one of them and right click, we can hit delete row. And you'll know that these rows are nonsense, as you see, because it says division ? Name ? We can also do multi-select. So if we were to select multiple cells and right click and delete, here it says delete all selected rows, and those two fall away. So that's how we delete. However, we still have this situation where hammer test 3 is in the same match twice. If we were to hit submit scores, you'll see we get much better information about this. In this case, we have a duplicate competitor and match error. So there's a match with the same competitor having two sets of scores. So that's where this sorting mechanism works out really well, to be able to easily highlight that we have two sets. We would choose the one that we want, and for the other one, we would delete the row. And as you see here, we're deleting division 1-1, named hammer test 3. Now if we click save, everything is exactly where it needs to be, and save was successful. So let's go ahead and make a new match so that we can exercise the dynamic nature of these fields. If we go over to matches, we can say new match, and we're going to pick something that works well for our competitors. So let's see, Isabel is a black belt, 40 years old, 130 pounds. So let's add a kata for black belt. Let's do weapons kata. We'll do weapons kata, min belt, and max belt. But her age is 40, so we're going to have to go with this one and create. So here we've got weapons kata 4-1. We're going to add Isabel into that. Nobody else matches the parameters for that. So now if we come over here and add a new row, you'll see that our drop-down list now includes the new match that we just added, 4-1. It self-assigns as weapons kata, and our only competitor is Isabel. From that point forward, we can start giving ratings to Isabel as appropriate from the judges' score sheets. Once complete, of course, we always go ahead and save our scores. This now completes the tutorial for Event Hammer Score Management.